Hello, I'm the Pink Phantom, and this is my podcast. Join me as I delve into the world of games and gaming, and especially old school RPGs. Together, let's voyage into the astral realm and check out my Phantom Thought. In this episode, I've got a call from Riley from the Diegetic Advancement Podcast. I talk more about blogs and bundles and a Kickstarter. And we kick off the OSR, and we wrap up with more from the Tales of the Dragon Slayers.
Hey, Pink Phantom, Riley here. I just thought I'd call in. Still enjoying the show. I just haven't had time to be calling in as of late, but trying to start up again. I wanted to call in on your post-apocalyptic versus Age of Exploration kind of discussion. I can see it. Being true, as Jason mentions in his call, it kind of depends on your setting. But if we're talking about the implied setting in OD&D, I can see that. I can also see the post-apocalyptic, although I think you do raise a good point in that it's not really, and Jason raises this point as well, is it really post-apocalyptic? No, because when I think of post-apocalyptic, I'm thinking of, you're kind of surviving through the immediate aftermath almost of that. A game like Fallout or like The Walking Dead kind of thing. So it probably is if you're going to use the term apocalyptic, it's probably post-apocalyptic. The other term that's used is post-collapse, which I can see as well. So the idea of the post-collapse, and you talk about that in your response, where this empire Rome has fallen back, and the Germanic people are coming through and kind of not rediscovering, but finding all these remnants of the Roman Empire post their retreat. So I think all three of those kind of setting styles definitely fit with the kind of expectations for OD&D, and just D&D in general. The thing that for me makes it more post-apocalyptic than the other two in the implied setting is this sort of what's later called or termed like the points of light, right? So yes, you've got these vast stretches of wilderness that are ruined and lost civilizations, this and the other. And that could be the Age of Exploration. You've come to this new place and you're finding all this stuff. Or post-collapse, you're going through the collapse of an empire. But what I find is that even in the civilized areas that you come from, there are these vast stretches of distance between cities and towns, and it's very sparse, and that kind of makes me think that it is not quite a fully recovered civilization from some apocalypse, right? Whereas if your civilization hadn't experienced this kind of apocalyptic event, you would still be fairly densely packed in, and there would be that, and then there would be the wilderness from either this new place that you've discovered over the sea, or from the retreat of some civilization. But we don't really see that. We just see vast wilderness between everything and everywhere. And so that's what makes me think it's post-apocalyptic. Because, I agree. It's probably not post-apocalyptic. At least, that kind of makes me think of something else. But certainly I can see the argument for the other two, and then they certainly work for good D&D adventure settings. So anyway, keep it up. Bye for now.
So that was Riley of the Diegetic Advancement Podcast. You'll find a link to that in the show notes. I appreciate the call, Riley. I have also been bad about calling in to various shows. Seems like when I have the idea, I'm in the car or doing something, and then by the time I get to a stopping place, I've ended up listening to another podcast on the list on my feed, and it just kind of escapes me. I need to get better at that. But I do appreciate the call. I appreciate the content of the call. I think you raise a lot of interesting ideas. The idea of post apocalypse. How far beyond the apocalypse do you have to get before you're not post apocalypse? Before you're just you know that was a part of the past, that was kind of a downtime. I think the sort of, if there is a default setting for old school D&D or AD&D, I do think it's still kind of up in the air what that is. Definitely it's a dangerous world. Whether you say it's a post-apocalyptic world, or it's a new world being discovered, or it's post-apocalypse where civilization's been partly rebuilt and you're still getting to know the other areas that formerly had been inhabited, or maybe had just been visited before and had some relics of civilization or what have you. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and I really appreciate both you and Jason for having called in and contributed to it. All right, bundles and blogs and things. So blog wise, the main thing that caught my eye was really just an interesting piece of information. You see names on the internet, and people who've been on the internet a long time, especially in OSR terms, and you don't realize that there's a link between them until you find out there is. On the Grognardia blog, recently, it's probably been the last week or so, James there has been posting on and off about his long-term 10-year Empire of the Petal Throne campaign that he's been conducting, and it's just wrapped up recently after, like I said, 10-year campaign. And what I hadn't realized, and maybe he's mentioned it before and I've just missed those posts, is that Dyson Logos, of Dyson's dodecahedron blog, and most famous for the maps that he creates, has been a part of that campaign. And so one of the little links he had in just a little short post that he posted not long ago was a link to one of Dyson's posts, kind of summarizing one of the penultimate sessions of that campaign from essentially the player's point of view. So I found that pretty interesting, just knowing that these are kind of luminaries in the RPG industry, from the OSR side, from the maps of Dyson. And so just knowing that there's that link there that I didn't know was there before is just one of those things I find interesting. It's kind of like when I tuned into the Baskless Hills Breakdown podcast, because it was something that Evil Jeff had talked about being a part of, and that it kind of was really concentrating on domain play. It was something I wanted to really listen to. And one of the voices of the other players caught my ear. I was like, holy cow, that's the guy that does Tale of Manticore. So that was the main thing from the blog scene that really kind of hit me. I haven't been reading quite as many blogs as I have been in the last probably couple of weeks. So probably not as much as I've had in the past, or will have in the future, hopefully. Moving on, bundle wise, bundle holding, there is the Shadow of the Weird Wizard bundle, which is the Shadow of the Weird Wizard tabletop fantasy role-playing game based on the Shadow of the Demon Lord RPG. So if you're familiar at all with that, it's based on that. That's all I really know about it. It looks interesting. I probably won't back it again. I'm trying not to back as many things as I have been. But if you are interested, if you are someone that's a fan of Shadow of the Demon Lord, this might be of interest to you. Humble Bundle, they just recently dropped a World of Darkness digital bundle. So, 5th edition of the Vampire the Masquerade. I'm guessing that's the most recent edition. I don't know. I haven't followed that line for a while. They also have Hunter the Reckoning, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and just there's a ton of books in this offering. 57 item bundle is the top level. So 12 is the bottom level, 57 item is the top bundle. So a lot of material there if you get the big mega bundle. So the last thing I want to mention is I haven't been talking about Kickstarters or anything, but the reason I'm going to mention this Kickstarter is during RPG a Day, as part of kind of uh, Hexploration. I'm using that term because because the item is Hexploration decks. They're from Inkwell Ideas, and I had gotten a bundle. I don't remember if it was through Kickstarter or through another crowdfunding source that they did that, of several decks of hex cards essentially, and they're having a Kickstarter with 2 more decks. So and of course they're offering all the old decks as well, and they're also offering some hex mini maps, both in terms of digital or I think there is a hard copy version of that as well. Yeah, hex mini map set printed and digital as well. And these are laminated 3-inch by 3.46-inch tiles with points of interest and terrain and stuff like that on them. So if you've ever been interested in some of the Inkwell's Ideas hex decks, this might be a good value to have on Kickstarter. So again, there'll be links to all these bundles and Kickstarters and the few blog entries in the show notes. Oh, and one more thing. It's not technically a blog, it's a YouTube channel. Captain Courageous dropped a video at the end of September called Unleash the Power of the OSR, which I thought was apropos since OctOSR is now upon us. And he talks about the OSR kind of in general, but he also specifically is talking about Swords and Wizardry and the White Box Encyclopedia. So I found it a very interesting video, and so I wanted to pass that on. It's October, and that means it's OctOSR, a celebration of OSR and old school style games in role-playing games. And this year, what I'm going to try to do is just talk about the things that I hear the most about when people talk about old school play, or I read about on blogs, or see in videos and things of that nature. Just what are the most common things that are attributed to OSR play, and how does that differ from more modern games? So that is how I'm going to approach OctOSR this year. So the best place to start when you're talking about old school play, or really any RPG play, but talking about old school play, is with characters. Because if you're going to play the game, you're going to need a character. So what separates an old school style character from characters from more modern takes on RPGs? It starts off with ability scores. And ability scores are primarily used to determine if there are any bonuses the character has for any type of actions they may take. The most common, of course, being with those that are more combat oriented. The dexterity score or agility score, giving you a better defense. A strength score, giving you a better ability to attack and cause damage to an opponent. With D&D as the obvious inspiration for old school style games, the standard, of course, is 6 ability scores. In D&D, they're usually in some order: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Other games may add to these, or they may consolidate them into fewer types of abilities. In terms of generating the scores, a lot of times in old school games, you'll hear 3d6 down the line, rolling 3d6, getting a number between 3 and 18, and you go in order that the abilities are written on your character sheet, and the numbers you get are the numbers you get. Now, the old TSR games typically had some caveat, some way to take points from one score to add to another if you wanted to increase one score at the cost of others, or to switch scores around by rolling 6 scores and then placing them where you wanted to. or in the case of AD&D, there were several different methods, some of which include generating a bunch of different characters, using 3d6 down the line and picking the one you liked best, and then the others would be set aside perhaps to be used as NPCs or down the line maybe as henchmen. But the randomness typically came first in those older school games, and a lot of more modern OSR takes have built on that as well. They are founded on that, which means you need to roll the scores before you can even determine what a good class would be for you, rather than what you do in some more modern games where you pick a class you want, and then the character creation process enables you to, either through switching scores you rolled, or by using a point buy system, or by using a standard array that you distribute to be able to qualify for the class that you want. Now, later in AD&D, when Unearthed Arcana came out, a method was devised to, in fact, do just that. You pick your class first, and then you were still rolling your score, but you'd be rolling more than 3d6 in the scores that were important to that character to have a high score. And even if you didn't get for the classes that needed a minimum in a certain score, if you didn't even get that, you would just take the minimum. So that is pretty old school. By that time, AD&D was it was more than a decade old by the time Unearthed Arcana came out, or right around a decade. So, but still, that's early enough in the TSR era. It's during the era of basic D&D and AD&D. So before even second edition AD&D. So it's pretty old school. But I think the way it's looked upon by a lot of proponents of the OSR is you roll the scores first, probably using 3d6 down the line, maybe using another method, and then what you got is what would limit you to what character classes you could choose. Another thing about old school characters is they were considered, for lack of a better term, fragile. That the OSR style play has a reputation, deserved or not, for being a more deadly style of play than modern games. Now, first level characters in pretty much any game are pretty easy to kill. That is to say, if they find themselves in a combat. Some of the most modern games where you get maximum possible hit points at first level rather than rolling for hit points, a little more resilient to taking a hit or two. But typically, first level characters in pretty much most editions of the game, particularly the OSR old school style games, you take a hit, you're dead. And the idea behind that is that the goal is not to seek out combat as much as the game as is pointed towards informing you how you can utilize your character in combat, as many spells that are combat spells, as much space that is given in OSR old school games and the original editions to weapons and armor and things like that. The idea is that you want to keep your character alive. You don't want to be fighting, and if you are fighting, you want to put yourselves at such an advantage that the other guy doesn't get a good swing at you. The other thing about characters in old school games is earning experience so that you can earn those levels, increase those hit points, increase your abilities to do damage, to be survivable, to have more skills or more spells, depending on where an OSR game may fall in those categories, to improve your character, to improve their survivability, and to increase their power over time. In fact, one of the main reason really in the original version of the game, to adjust certain ability scores or to want certain ability scores for certain classes is that it earned those classes experience point bonuses because those particular ability scores were high, and for that character class, that gave them a bonus on experience that they earned. And typically those ability scores were to represent the role that character class was supposed to play. So you wanted that ability score to be high. You wanted to earn experience because your character is good at the things that its class is supposed to do. And in AD&D, Gary Gygax even went so far as to put out a rating system for dungeon masters to use for the players, so that if they had if they utilize their characters in fulfilling their class role during the game, that it would be easier for their character to advance in terms of the amount of time. And in that particular game, time was money when it came to earning, to progressing your character, because it wasn't simply enough to earn the experience points and then you progress like in a video game. Ding, you leveled up, but you had to seek out a trainer to train you, and the amount of time it took to train cost money. The more time it took, the more money it cost, and if the dungeon master gave you low ratings over the time that you were earning the experience points, it would end up taking you more time to train, and therefore your character would have to seek out enough money for the extended training necessary. The other thing about characters in old school play is a lot of times the differentiation between different characters of the same class is not so much making different choices in class progression, because there weren't necessarily that many choices to make, but in what they obtained during their adventures, in terms of equipment, in terms of armor, in terms of weapons, in terms of magic items, and for the magic using classes in terms of spells, because the magic users in the old TSR games, they had to seek out spells. They had to find people that'd be willing to teach them spells, or they had to find old scrolls, old spell books in dungeons and transcribe those spells, or perhaps even take spell books off of magic users that they defeated from other parties or NPCs that they were confronted with in the gaming world during their adventures. So those are the things that I hear most often talked about when talking about characters in OSR play. So that was what I wanted to cover in this particular episode. If you have any other things that you've heard, particularly about characters in OSR style play that I've missed, please, I encourage you to give me feedback. The various methods of feedback will be listed at the end of the episode, but I've got email, I've got different areas, different ways you can send me voice messages. If you don't want your message played on the air, if you send me a voice message, if you just want to send me a message and I can relate the information to respond to it in another episode, that would be great. Or if you simply don't want it to be included in the episode at all, but you just had something you wanted to tell me in terms of feedback, I appreciate that as well. So thank you for listening to this little bit of OctOSR. This one was about characters. And now, more from my solo AD&D RPG campaign, Tales of the Dragon Slayers. So at the end of the previous episode, the party was electing to go on without both Quinn and Prier, who had both been injured in battle and fallen and been revived, but needed time to recover. And when we left, Michael and Carl were, along with the party troops, were escorting the Grimlock captives and Prier back to their base on the first level. So now, as that group was heading back to the first level, they ran across, they had a wandering monster encounter, and they actually ran across another group of 20 dwarves with a leader of a fourth level fighter. Both groups were surprised, but Michael was able to communicate who they were and that they were on a mission to find the dwarves. And with the dwarves helping to guard the Grimlocks, they were able to send the regular troops back to the rest of the party to inform them that they had found more dwarves. Now the party was moving on and testing their intel from the Grimlocks by opening the treasure room. Bernie finds and disarms a trap that would have sent several large stones swinging at the end of ropes at any would-be entrant. Gus forces the door, and in a 10-foot by 10-foot room, the party finds small chests with copper, gold, and jewelry, as well as an arrow with runes carved in it. Next, the party opted to enter the door to the west, where they had seen the Grimlock females and children leave. Bernie finds no trap, and Gus forces the door. The 40-foot east-west by 30-foot room is crammed with Grimlocks. Another leader and 10 more Grimlocks stand between the party and 40 females Beyond them cower 50 young. The party is surprised by the numbers, but the Grimlocks are more surprised that the party overcame their best warriors. Edgar encourages them to surrender in Kobold, offering to relocate them. The Grimlocks, 85% roll on the reaction roll, agree, the leader laying down his arms and encouraging the others to do the same. The party confiscates the weapons and tells the Grimlocks to remain in the room, leaving guards on the door. The party proceeds to the remaining door in the other room, taking a leader with them. A 30-foot hall leads north to a 20-foot by 20-foot chamber with another 10 Grimlocks and leader. Again, the party is less surprised than the Grimlocks and try to reason with Edgar and the Grimlock and Kobold leaders, plus 10% for the Grimlock, plus 5% for the Kobold. Roll of 27% equals 41, so that's 55% negative, but the second roll of a 62%, the Grimlocks disarm and are accompanied to the others, and the party rests, then searches the chamber and finds a secret door on the west side of the southwest corner. Bernie finds that the heavy stone door will fall out when opened, but is unsuccessful preventing it. Vegmar and Gus are unable to dodge. Both are slightly injured. The party discovers that the remaining Grimlock females and young are in the room beyond and are able to convince them to surrender. They take the Grimlocks back to the others who are being held and then dispatch their men-at-arms to escort them back to the first level. The party searches the room behind that secret door and find nothing. They see on their map that a secret door in the room beyond the elevator that they tricked the rust monsters onto has a secret door that should open into some area behind this secret room. So they backtrack, they find the elevator is back up, and while disabling it, they encounter the last of the dwarves they were searching for, 14 dwarves with 3 third-level fighters and a 4th-level fighter leading them. They instruct them how to find the nearby stairs back to the first level. The party then proceeds to the secret door they were heading toward. It opens into a 20-foot east-west by 30-foot room, and it's an empty workshop. The party then elects to return to the room where they encountered the gnolls the previous day. Once there, they go to the northmost of the 2 doors on the east. It opens into a 10-foot by 10-foot room filled with sigils and runes and polygon-shaped carvings. Katya's sword pings strong magic. She believes it to be some kind of teleportation site. The party secures the door, deciding not to risk going in there, and proceeds to the southern east door. It opens into a 30-foot long hall that ends in a trap door. Measuring with a rope, the party determines it goes down to the 4th level. They secure the trap door and the door leading to that hall. The party then takes the west door out of the room where they had encountered the gnolls. The party enters a 30-foot east-west by 40-foot room, and they enter 10 feet from the north wall. There's a door opposite them, one in the southwest corner on the west side, and doors north and south in the middle of each of those walls. In the middle of the room is a pile of Electrum coins. Bernie finds a trigger plate on the floor underneath, but he triggers it, and a group of darts fires up, and one nicks Bernie. A search of the room yields nothing else. The party confirms the door to the south is a one-way door into a previous area they'd explored. Bernie finds no traps on any of the remaining doors. Gus forces the door to the north, and they enter a corridor where they run smack into their old friends, the gnolls. The roll indicated a wandering monster check on the bespoke table of previously encountered monsters' lairs in, but the roll on that yielded dwarves who had all been found, so since the gnolls had been in this area, more gnolls. The 3 that had run away from them before had 6 friends with them. The 2 groups ran almost smack into each other as the hall made a 45-degree east turn right before the party ran into them. The party won initiative 6-5. Gus and Michael kill one of the gnolls, Bernie kills another, and Vegmar wounds another. The morning stars of the gnolls clang off the armor of the party members on the front line. The party wins initiative again 6-5. Gus and Michael kill another gnoll. The gnoll in front of Vegmar fends off Vegmar's blow, but Katya finds an opening and finishes it off. The gnolls are shaken but press on to no effect. They passed the morale check, but they still couldn't get any hits. Though both groups seem to be tiring, the party is still quicker to act, winning initiative 3-2. All members of the party hit, and 3 more gnolls go down. The remaining gnolls surrender. The party returns to the previous room, turning over the prisoners to their men-at-arms and take a rest. Then they press onwards. At a cross corridor, the party runs into another party, a 2nd level cleric, 3 2nd level magic users, 1 slinger, 1 short bowman, 1 lightfoot, 1 heavyfoot. The party's conversation with them, adjusted reaction of 97%, so very favorable reaction, is interrupted by the arrival of yet another party, 2 5th level fighters, a 5th level assassin, a 5th level monk, a sergeant, which serves as a 1st level fighter, a heavy crossbowman, a heavy hobbler, and 2 heavyfoot. The way this worked out was the roll for the dungeon indicated a monster in the corridor, and then there was a wandering monster check due, and that's how you got the 2 parties at basically the same time. So then things got interesting. The 5th level party got 2 segments of surprise versus the 2nd level party. The Dragon Slayers were not surprised by the 5th level party, but did surprise the 5th level party for 2 segments, including the monk. And I interpreted this as the 5th level party getting their licks in, followed by action by the Dragon Slayers, because the reaction by the 5th level party to the 2nd level party was very negative. So the assassin kills 1 of the magic users. The fighters kill 1 heavy footman and the slinger while injuring the light footman. The monk hits the cleric but is unable to penetrate his armor, but the men-at-arms with pole arms kill the cleric and the other heavy footman while finishing off the light footman and injuring the short bowman. In their second segment, the 5th level party finishes off the short bowman and kills the other 2 magic users. The Dragon Slayers surge forward incensed, and I rolled a reaction roll for them, and it was an adjusted reaction roll of 11%. The 5th level party is caught with the fighters and the assassin at the back of the 2nd level party where the magic users were. So the other men-at-arms and monk are closer to the Dragon Slayers. Gus kills the heavy hobbler. Bernie kills the monk. In the second segment, Begmar kills the heavy crossbowman, and Bernie and Katya combine to kill a heavy footman. The Dragon Slayers get the jump on the other party again in the first round of regular combat, 5-4. Bernie finishes off the sergeant, but that's all they managed to accomplish. The 5th level party is undeterred. They pass morale check, and the assassin's sword clangs off of Gus's shield. The fighter opposite Bernie and heavy footman attacking Begmar also miss. The 5th level party presses forward, winning initiative 3-1. The assassin works inside Gus's defenses and deals a serious wound, but the rest of that party is unable to make any headway. Bernie is the only Dragon Slayer to successfully strike a blow. The party gains the upper hand, initiative 2-1. Gus counters the assassin, but again, no other party members can strike a blow. The other party is unable to make any headway. It seems like a stalemate has been achieved. The party renews its attack, initiative 6-1. Gus further injures the assassin. Vegmar fails the last heavy footman, and the last 5th level party members are still unable to injure the Dragon Slayers. The Slayers are emboldened, winning initiative 6-1. Gus kills the assassin. Katya further injures the fighter opposite her and Bernie, and those last 2 remaining fighters surrender. They state that they are mercenaries hired by the assassin to kill the magic user that was assassinated. That's just the way I ended up interpreting what the dice rolls were, and that the 5th level party seemed to be following this 2nd level party and had a negative reaction to them, that they were kind of gunning for them. And since the assassin targeted a magic user first, I determined that randomly. It seemed to make the most sense that they were after that particular magic user for some reason. So after that battle, and with all the dwarves having been found, the party elects to retire for the day. Once they get back to their home base, after a discussion and some sworn oaths from the mercenaries not to oppose the party or act against them again, the 2 fighters are paroled and allowed to leave. And so we will end this there with the end of another day of exploring. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late Night Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.